All right, and welcome into the next Picks and Chatter edition of the Vegas Squares podcast. It is our weekly NCAA edition. We've got a packed studio. We've got Aaron, myself, and we've got Tony. We got one Tony on the left, one Tony on the right. As Spike would say, we got real token and we got fake token, but that's not the way I look at it. We got token Tony and we got Tony Johnson. And what's up, Tony?
Which one?
Don't matter.
I feel like you're going to abuse that as the show goes on.
No, see, I think the fake token, it is a subtle dig. I can tell that touched a nerve that one day when he called you fake token.
Well, we were obliterating his picks that he had made, and so it just all came to fruition.
Yeah, because real Tony had like the worst week imaginable, and you had to defend his picks.
Exactly. That was the whole point. I didn't want to have to defend these picks, but I know he's a lot better than this, so yes.
Yeah, that week I would have got crushed in the NFL, so.
Anyways, well, we appreciate you tuning in on 12-Ounce Sports Radio. Here it is, Saturday morning. Get you caught up and updated, ready for college football Saturday. It is a big slate, as always. We got some good games, a lot of conference games in play that'll be starting to decide and kind of shape up the early notions in some of these big conferences.
Yeah, it's definitely I think the best week that we've had so far this season in regards to the great matchups, especially great conference matchups. Pretty much all across the board in all of the conferences, you have at least one high-profile game that will very likely determine probably who will go eventually to the championship game.
Yeah, you're absolutely right about that, as well as potentially stir up a few playoff talks.
Well, yeah, you got teams who last week took a step up or a step down. You got Texas, who's entering itself into Big 12 and potentially playoff discussions here with their win against Oklahoma. You got Auburn, who finally went on the road and got beat, who may have taken a step down. Obviously, they have some, the two losses in conference has got to hurt them at this point. You got Florida with a big win against LSU. That's big for them.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Florida's played really well this year.
You had a funny look on your face.
No, I'm shocked at how badly Auburn's running the ball. Like you were mentioning Auburn, and it's one of the things that's like why they have losses or why they haven't played really well is because they haven't run the ball very well, which is sort of the polar opposite of what we've expected.
Well, the funny thing is I literally bet that game last week. I did the show by myself because you were out of town, you were busy. I literally on the show bet that week said, I'm fading them because this is their first game on the road. Yeah, I didn't realize that until I started looking at the schedule. I'm like, they haven't left Alabama yet.
Yeah, it was pretty amazing. Yeah, they played the one neutral site game in Georgia, but other than that,
but that's like from Auburn. I think it's like 3 hours.
Yeah, it wasn't even that bad exactly. So it was definitely more of a pro Auburn crowd there for sure. But it's just strange how poorly they've played for what they are.
Jared Stidham and all those guys. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, you just expect them to have this high, this bashing offense, and it has not happened at all.
I think Token Tony, the Lions fan, would have 2 words for you: Carry on, Johnson. So, anyways, let's not spend too much time looking at the past. Let's look at the here and now. And you guys ready to dive in some games? I know we got a long show ahead of us.
Yeah, I'm
absolutely
ready.
All right, let's make some money this weekend, and let's open it up with the 9 a.m. games. Again, we're going to do Pacific time because fuck you. That's why.
Nice.
Let's start with Oklahoma State and Kansas State. And Oklahoma State is a road favorite of 7 points, traveling to Manhattan, the Little Apple, which we know is sometimes giant slaying country. Total 62 on this one. The Pokes getting 70% of the action right now, despite being beat by Iowa State last week and not looking good doing it.
In this matchup, I look for the bounce back by the Pokes. I think they'll be out with a vengeance and take out Kansas State pretty handily. They'll probably win by a score and a half, if not 2 scores.
It's an interesting game. I don't have a play on this one myself, but I tend not to be betting against K-State at home getting points. It's just something that, Bill Snyder's record is phenomenal if you go back to both of his tenures.
This year seems a little different, though, in my opinion. Just my opinion.
This year is definitely a little bit different. That's why I'm kind of a little hesitant, and it's not a play, per se. But I do believe they have turned a bit of a corner on offense.
Okay.
They played a lot better last week, and without actually having Alex Delton available, has, I think, actually improved the offense. It seemed like Thompson was able to sort of slow down, and he made a few mistakes early on, but knew there wasn't anybody looking over his shoulder, and they righted the ship really nicely in the second half, and probably should have won that game against Baylor. It Yeah, they were pretty unfortunate not to win that one. I mean, they made some mistakes down the stretch, but I think that K-State has finally made a turn. They're getting good play out of running back Barnes, and
yeah, Barnes is nasty. 600 yards and 5 touchdowns this year.
Yeah, I think it'll be a close game. Again, I'm not sure close enough spread-wise, but the total seems about right too, because it looks like both these teams can score, and they don't play a whole lot of good defense.
Yeah, I mean, I have to agree with you on some points. Last year, obviously, Kansas State won in Stillwater against Oklahoma State, so it's not like they have the ability, or it's not like they don't have the ability to beat this team, because I don't know if the high-powered offense of OK State's still there, like the Mason Rudolphs. I mean, Justice Hill's still there. The two things I saw that really gives Kansas State an edge here in this point is time of possession and penalties. They don't commit a lot of penalties, and they hold the football, and that's a product of usually having running quarterbacks like they do. Oklahoma State, a couple things I noticed. They do have a 7-game road win streak on the line right now. Not that that's anything completely relevant to this. And overall, they are 18-15 just straight up inside the Little Apple. My lean right now, no official play, my lean right now is with the Pokes. If it stays at 7, if that hook comes around, I know that half a point doesn't sound like too much, but it could be detrimental if that hook 7.5 comes around. I'm gonna lay right now on a lean with Oklahoma State, praying it goes back down. With your people thinking like you, oh man, Kansas State inside Manhattan, it could be upset central. I don't know if they can do it. I don't know if this, like you said, they may be turning a corner, but they better do it fast. They're 2-4.
Yeah, it's just not the same Oklahoma State offense as you said though too. They graduated a lot of people, and they're not getting great quarterback play.
Des Bryant can go back for his Masters.
Yeah. That's probably about the only place.
It's the only job he's got right now. Yeah.
That would probably be a big help. But yeah, it's just as you said. I'm a little bit worried about Oklahoma State overall. They haven't looked great this year. So, but again, I think it'll be a close game and a good game too.
Let's hope it's an 8-point victory for the Pokes.
There you go.
Yep. All
right, we got another game that is starting to have Big Ten implications as well. It may not be the sexy teams that you're used to, but we do have 4-1 Iowa traveling to Indiana, 4-2 Indiana. Currently, Iowa is a 5-point favorite. They are getting 65% of the action right now. Total is 53.
Yeah, in this play, Iowa, I think, should easily win by a touchdown. Whether it's a last-second touchdown or maybe even sneaks into overtime for some crazy reason.
Did you make out with a hooker last night? You all right, dude?
Yeah, I'm all right.
Oh, man.
So that's what that sounds like. Okay.
Yeah. What's her name? Jezebel. I can't say Tony because then that goes back to him.
Yeah, no, it's. I think this, as you kind of noted, it's pretty much a classic Big Ten sort of scrounge fest, and it's one of those things. I think Iowa on paper looks pretty obvious that they should win this game and probably win it going away. But Indiana's played really tough this year.
Sure. Our lasting image is Ohio State, where they hung for 2.5, 3 quarters.
Yeah. They had the lead for a little while too, early in the game, and Indiana's done that in pretty much every game they've played this year. They've been in every one. They let Rutgers hang around too long. I think that leaves a little bit of a sour taste with some people, but Indiana can absolutely play, and they can play for a variety of reasons. They have a lot of talent on this team now. They have much more talent than they have in probably the last 5 to 10 years, which, funny enough, goes back to a lot of the recruiting that a past coach that is now at Ohio State did, and they can play. They can play on both sides of the ball. They've been relatively healthy this year, and I think the line's about right. It's one of those kind of scared lines. They don't really want to make it a touchdown because that's probably too much, and this team's a lot better than people have given them credit for. So I look for a close game. No play for me here, but I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, head-to-head right now, the over is 8-2 in their last 10 meetings, and the favorite is 5-2 against the spread in their last 7 meetings. The last 2 times they've played, Iowa has won and covered, which is when 2014 and 2015. We talked about Indiana, their ability. Obviously, Ramsey, Westbrook, Harris, Scott, they got a lot of weapons on their team. An interesting stat I found with Iowa is they are the only school in the Big Ten to be top 2 in total defense, rush defense, pass defense, and scoring defense. That's pretty damn good.
Yeah,
it is, in my opinion. In this spot, this is going to be my first bet of our show. I'm taking the strap off for this one. And I am actually, even though they are 8-2 over the last 10 games, I'm going to take the under in this game. I think good defense is going to prevail, hopefully frustrate Indiana. And I don't know if Iowa's, just looking at Iowa's there's just basically their stats and their ability to go up and down the field, their drives, they aren't the greatest on offense. So I'm going to take an average offense coupled with an excellent defense, and hopefully that excellent defense can stop the pretty good offense on the other side. So I'm going to take the under 53. I think this game falls 24-21, something along those lines. So yeah, I wasn't really 100% sold on a total, on a side at that point. So I like the bet of under 53 in the Iowa-Indiana game at that point. So let's talk about staying in the Big Ten. Another game where maybe preseason, or at least after the first game or two, looked like it was going to be maybe more than it is. Now we've got a 3-2 Minnesota team going up against the juggernaut Ohio State. Ohio State getting 58% of the action right now. This is a team that averages pretty close to 50 points a game, and a quarterback that has 25 touchdowns at this point through the air. A matchup rooted basically in Ohio State dominance. They're 44-7 all time in this series, and the line currently, depending on where you look, is 29.5, 30 points.
Yeah, this to me is probably the last year, I would guess, of this massive dominance and probably massive spread. Minnesota is doing a ton of things well in pretty much all directions. They're recruiting incredibly well right now. They've got a head coach that really knows what he's doing, and I think they're going to get a lot better offensively.
Isn't that Fleck?
Yeah, PJ, yeah. So, and offensively, I think is where the biggest strides will be. They've always been a good defensive team. They've always recruited well defensively, and they still are a good defensive team this year. The only problem is they've lost a lot of guys, a lot of very key players to injury. They've lost probably their best offensive player, Rodney Smith, the running back, and they've lost very likely their best defensive player, Antoine Winfield Jr. So it's been a tough road for Minnesota. They have some other injuries in their defensive backfield, and it's just tough. They gave up so many points to Iowa last week. I think is mostly because they have a lot of new guys and new faces is playing. So it's going to be a tough game for them. I mean, 30 points is a lot of points to cover, though, in a Big Ten game. So I'm not exactly super excited about something like that, but I just can't see Ohio State not dominating this game playing against such a weak defense, just based on so many new players on that defense.
Yeah, the Golden Gophers are 4-0 against the spread in their last 4 games following a double-digit loss at home, as well as 4-1 against the spread last 5 games after allowing more than 40 points in the previous games. Buckeyes are 4-1 in their last 5 home games against the spread, as well as 4-1.
Definitely going to allow 40 points in this game, too.
Yeah. Buckeyes are 4-1 in their last 5 games after accumulating more than 450 total yards in the previous game, too.
Uh-oh. A lot of 4-1. Something has to give here.
Yes. There's also a lot of cold ones, too, more on the Gopher side. And the Gophers are 0-4-1 in their last 5 road games against the spread. And 1-5-1 against the spread with a team with a winning record.
Yeah, a lot of that right now is just getting beat by teams, like you said. They're decimated with injuries at this point.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at a team that's given up 21, 22 points in Ohio State. Minnesota probably can get that at that point. Minnesota, like you said, giving up 45 points over the last 2 conference games. They have covered 4 out of 6. The last 6 games they've played, they have covered 4 out of 6, but they have not won a game this century. So that's not good for them. I don't have an official play on this, although if you had to put a gun to my head, I would say parlay Minnesota plus the 30 and go over. I think that's the play. I think Ohio State's good for 40. So if I think they're going to cover 30, I'm going to give them 20 points. Hovered right around that number. Let's say it's 45-20, 45-23, somewhere around there.
There you go.
Yeah, I definitely like the over in this game for sure. And Ohio State could probably almost get there themselves. I think Ohio State covers. They score right around 50. And only allows 17 points to Minnesota.
We'll see what their motivation level is. I think it'll probably come down a lot to that and how aggressively they show up for this one, because that is always a question mark in these games.
Yeah, that's a fair assessment. All right, we got a couple of SEC matchups here in the 9 o'clock slate of games that we'll talk about. You and I, we talked off air about Auburn. Actually, we talked a little bit on air about Auburn as well. So let's start with Tennessee and Auburn. Auburn is giving 15.5 points. Currently, live line actually is 14.5 right now. Total 46. Auburn 4-2. Well, we talked about that. They are 1-2 in the SEC. So probably in the SEC West, it looks like, I would say, given something catastrophic, they're probably done as far as contending for a title up against SEC opponent Tennessee, who they haven't played in a few years. It's a motivational factor at this point, like you're talking about for Gus Malzahn's team. They are getting 65% of the action. Just what are they playing for?
Well, I mean, not as you said, not a whole lot. I think they'll definitely show up in the Iron Bowl game. I don't think there's any doubt about that. But
sure.
But that's certainly many weeks away, and these games that are in between are going to be the tough ones.
Well, you tell me a team like Gus Malzahn's Auburn team, and I only link this because of personal attachment. Everybody, obviously we know UCF beat Auburn in the Peach Bowl last year, the New Year's Six Bowl, and everybody and their mother who's a Power 5 ball washer said that Auburn had no interest in playing that football game. Well, here is an exact example that Auburn has no interest and really doesn't have interest in playing football anymore. So, I mean, if you're telling me that's exactly what it is, okay, some SEC game against Tennessee. Look, they're number 21 in the country. You have Texas A&M. You have LSU. You have Alabama. You're not leapfrogging these guys. You're not leapfrogging Alabama. Alabama's one loss.
Sure.
Even if you beat them, that's probably their one loss. So what are you playing for here?
Well, I do think it's a little bit different than the USF situation. I mean, they were
UCF.
Oh, I'm sorry, UCF deal. Yeah,
bro.
I know that's
Bro.
apparently like a thing, but
Bro.
Yeah,
Bro.
They were at one point the best team in the country last year, and they were playing the best, and it was a rough end of the season, and I think having to play a non-Power 5 team in a bowl game after 3 or 4 weeks off was not exactly what they were looking for. I'm not trying to make any excuses like the Power 5 ball washers, as you mentioned, but it's just not.
You have to emphasize ball washers.
It certainly wasn't a game and a matchup they probably deserved with the season that they had. But I mean, this year's team is very different. They've certainly lost a lot of people on defense, and that showed. That showed a lot in games like against Arkansas, where they gave up a lot of yards. They didn't give up a lot of points in that game, but they still gave up a lot of yards in very odd fashion. And it does, as you kind of mentioned, it does seem like some sort of motivational deal. They're just not playing very well. I don't know. Tennessee's coming off a bye, so there's something there. They're playing. They have a long way to go to right that ship in Tennessee. I mean, Butch Jones just left that thing in disaster land, and they may or may not have the right guy there at the helm to do it, but it's going to take a long time, and Tennessee is still a huge work in progress and have virtually no offense to speak of. So I'm not saying I want to lay the points here, but the line to me actually makes a lot of sense for what they're up against. I mean, Tennessee is really that bad, I think.
That's a good assessment, because I tell you what, when I tried to do research on this game, I looked for anything positive to say coming out of Knoxville, and I came up with they give up 43 points per game in SEC play. They have no quarterback. They have no offensive line.
Yeah.
They haven't covered versus Auburn in over a decade. Their last meeting was in 2013. That was everything I came up with for Tennessee.
I know.
There's nothing there, dude.
That's why
there's nothing there.
Yeah. I'm 100% in agreement there.
Yeah, in this game I would lean towards playing Auburn in the over in this spot. I think Auburn can get it done. They give up maybe a few points with their defense, but Tennessee with their defense giving up probably easily 35+.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, even though, like we said, what's Auburn playing for? They're 6th in scoring defense, and they've won the last 6 games of this one straight up. We talked about it. It's a good offense that had high expectations, and they've been average. I have to disagree with the situation. I don't think Tennessee can score at all with that defense, the Tiger defense. And I just don't think Auburn has enough offense, even at home, to push this total. I actually am betting the under 46 in this game. I think Tennessee would be lucky to get 10.
Wow. Okay. Fair enough. I wish I had an opinion, yay or nay on any.
You got many
of these
opinions, but if you don't have a bet, you don't have a bet.
Yeah. No, I don't. Unfortunately, but yeah, I kind of see both your both sides of the coin here. I don't know. We haven't seen a Jeremy Pruitt-led team off of a bye either. I mean, he's supposed to be incredibly good X's and O's guy, especially defensively with time. That was like one of the things he was great at. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know if that's going to translate as a head coach or not. But
well, he better play defense because his offense is terrible.
Yeah.
All right, staying in the SEC, you got University of Florida after a big win that I don't want to toot my own horn, but I'm pretty sure everybody I spoke with laughed me out of the building because I said UF will beat LSU, and they said, in what? Shuffleboard? And anyways. All right, that's enough tooting. You've got a UF team that's actually really strong. I mean, they're getting ready to crack the top 10. They're like 13 or 14, depending on the poll you look at. 5-1, 3-1 in conference play. They're getting 70% of the action at this point. I think the key thing here is for Dan Mullen to, because he's turned around this program, I wouldn't say completely, but so quickly, he's gone from, I mean, our lasting image of Jim McElwain is potentially naked on a shark. So we're through that, and now we're in a program that's 5-1. Expectations are coming back for the first time since Urban Meyer.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so I think the key here is looking to avoid a letdown after 2 straight big wins.
Definitely. I mean, they were only, I think, 2-point dogs last week to LSU at home. So, I mean,
plus Tebow got his jersey retired.
Crazy. Yeah, that's
or on the Ring of Swamp, or I don't know, whatever. They did something for Tim Tebow.
Something for Tim, yes. But it's been impressive, as you said, and the streak that they're not just beating teams like Tennessee and Colorado State, which are you should be winning those games handily, but winning at Mississippi State as well the week before, I think is almost as impressive as at home against LSU. I think Mississippi State is a lot better than their record shows. It's one of those teams that you kind of have to look past the record a little bit. They're much better than what they look. But I don't know. It's a tough game for me because this has been so many games in a row where they've played really well, and now they have to go on the road yet again before their bye, and it's a tough spot for me. I was hoping before the lines came out, I was sort of ready to go. I was like, okay, Florida's off of all these wins, they're probably going to be a double-digit favorite. Thinking like -10, -11 or whatever, and I can hit Vandy and be.
That's
really
what they opened up at.
Yeah, and
it went down fast.
It went down too fast. Yes, it was too quick before I looked back, and it's a bit of an uncomfortable spot now. I think they certainly have a better team than Vanderbilt, and Vanderbilt hasn't looked great either, but. It's just probably not enough points to take, and I just don't know. I was trying to find a play on this one because it seems like a spot where we could get one, but I didn't come up with anything myself.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, UF's getting 71% of the action. They are currently at -7 right now, total 50.5. You got a team. Felipe Franks has, in my opinion, from what I've seen in his 2+ years there, I think he's matured and he's developed pretty rapidly, pretty frequently, and he's progressed pretty well week to week. You got a team in Florida that's 6th in the nation in pass defense, which actually is Vanderbilt's strength. And then you have a team in Vandy who's, in their first 2 SEC games, has gotten outscored 78-27. Last 2 games, they're 5 of 25 on third down. But they are 50% in the last 10 meetings in covering. They've covered 5 out of the last 10. And in this game specifically, UF and Vandy, this is the highest over-under in a decade.
Yeah, I can easily move that.
Well, there's nothing to agree with. Those are facts. I hope you don't disagree.
I was definitely looking at that total as my play. I definitely like the under in this situation. I think Florida can put up some all-right points, but Vanderbilt maybe gets a few, but not enough to crack over the total.
Yeah, I know. You're talking about Tony with a lot of points. At 10, I probably would have taken Vanderbilt. At 7, I'm leaning right now. Not an official pick. I'm leaning towards the University of Florida in this spot. So, all right. Well, let's talk about Nebraska and Northwestern. The Fighting Fitzgeralds are laying 4 points, and that's my new name for them this year. Ever since we had that last podcast.
Yeah, this is a rough game
because everything that had gone wrong. What was that? 2-3 weeks ago against Michigan, or before the Michigan game?
Right.
They just, like I told you. Freaking Pat Fitzgerald just finds a way to just be awesome.
Yeah. I've been watching it up close, at least before I moved out here for a while too, and it's pretty impressive what what the university's been able to do football-wise, probably last decade plus. It's pretty cool stuff, but it's interesting how they're doing it as well this year. I know kind of teams that are sort of not how they usually are. They beat Michigan State last week with absolutely no running game whatsoever, and that is their bread and butter, has been for, again, years and years and years. And a testament more to the fighting Fitzes about utilizing what you have.
When something doesn't work, go to something different.
Do something else, and he schemes and game plans really well. They were off of a bye. They were off of the situation where they kind of went away from who they thought the running back would be. So they went away from John Moten last week to try to, I think, find a spark. And it worked for a little while. They actually did have some yards in the first half, and then proceeded in the second half to have like 3 losses on rushes to start the second half. So it seems like it's a work in progress, the running game. And while that may not matter in this game against Nebraska, it's certainly going to matter in the future in other Big Ten contests. This is an ugly game. Nebraska's played.
You said that a lot about a lot of the games so far.
Well, it is. I mean, you've brought up a lot of you've brought up some mediocre to bad, Power 5 conference teams, and this is what we have. So
So you're saying there's bad teams in the Power 5?
I am. However, if you want to have UCF blowout, we can have one whenever. But yes, I do readily admit that there are some bad teams in Power 5 conferences, especially in the Pac-12. But yes, I don't know. I don't like either side here. Nebraska's looked better offensively. As long as Martinez stays healthy, I think I said that a couple of weeks ago as well. It seems like this team has a chance to beat some people, but without him, they're basically dead. He is the only scholarship quarterback that they have. So, and
who's that? Oh yeah,
Martinez.
Yeah.
He's a true freshman. He's the only scholarship quarterback they have. So he's healthy. He seems to be playing a lot better. He can throw the ball too. I think we're all a little bit surprised how much arm strength he has, and might be a close game.
He had 400 yards last week or something like that.
Yeah, but nothing much from me. But I don't know about you, Token. But I don't see this one as being all that entertaining per se.
It doesn't seem that entertaining to me, but I actually like this game. I'm actually going to put a little money on Northwestern at this value. I think that's the smart play on this.
Fair enough.
I guess call me a sucker because you're right. Everything points Northwestern, and I liken gambling, sports betting to the market. Nothing gets too high, nothing gets too low. We just talked about that off the air.
Definitely.
And if you start to get crazy and overreacting, you fall right into the book's hands. Yes, things seem very bleak in Nebraska, and this is a different regime, but 4 out of the last 6 meetings have been decided by 3 points or less, which obviously falls within the total. I like the way Adrian Martinez is playing. They got to keep the penalties down. They lead FBS with 97 yards a game in penalties. And again, what is the Fighting Fitzgeralds going to do? Every once in a while, I think they'll win this game. Every once in a while, you're going to have a close game. I don't think Northwestern is as good of a team as they're playing right now. And yes, everybody's going to see the win over Michigan State. I think they win the game very close. 30-29. I'm going to take Nebraska in the points in this spot.
We have a podcast face-off. Exciting. It's amazing they can lose to Akron at home and then go on the road and beat Michigan State. It's
crazy.
Strange thing.
It's funny world we live in with playing football. All right, I know this is a game you've been dying to dissect, Tony Johnson, because apparently all this P5 garbage is just way too elementary for you. And so I'm giving you Troy -9 at Liberty with a total of 64 points.
I can't believe you put this on the list of games. That is
I did
the
this
most
for
shocking
you.
thing. It was okay.
Because the last time we did the podcast, you and I, your in-depth information about some of the games we talked about that were very like this, I was amazed.
Yeah,
I put this one on. I literally have nothing in my notes. I have Troy getting 69% of the action. They're 4-1-1 against the spread. They're 2-0 on the road. What else you got? That's all I got.
It's such an awkward game because it's a non-conference game. It has to be. I mean, Liberty's without a conference. So.
Well, they're transitioning into the Sun Belt, so it's a pseudo-conference game. If they become D1 football, because I was reading actually on this, they're officially neither an FBS nor an FCS team.
Right. Yeah.
And from what I understand, even if they win 6 games, they cannot go to a bowl.
They can't go to a bowl. Yeah. That is true.
They're transitioning into D1, and if they do transition, they become a member of the Sun Belt, which is the conference that Troy's in.
Right. I'm not
sure
fun facts. That's 100% guaranteed that they're going to be in the Sun
No,
Belt.
it's not guaranteed.
Right.
Well, no. From what I understand,
that's the goal, and that was what.
Where else would they go?
Plan. I don't know. I have no idea. I know that they had not, at least as of the beginning of the season, signed anything to actually go to a conference.
No, I understand that, but I think what I meant to say was what I was reading is all roads point
where
to
they should go. Right.
Yeah.
It would make the most sense based on their location and a lot of.
Put them in the Big East.
Big East. So that's. Yeah, I mean, but taking that away, though, it is 2 teams that really have no history at all, nor should they. And Troy is in a weird spot because they just lost their starting quarterback for the year. He just tore his ACL last week, and it's one of those unknowns. We don't really know a whole lot about the backup. He was a redshirt freshman last year. Didn't really get to play all that much. They had a very good team last year, so it's an odd game. They have a 2-headed running back. Deal.
2-headed running back.
A 2-headed running back.
That's neat. I got to watch Liberty play more.
No, you should watch Troy. That's not.
Oh, excuse me, Troy. Yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah, Troy.
2 heads in the backfield. I like to play them both at once too, which is
better than 2 quarterbacks.
Definitely better than 2 quarterbacks, especially in the Sun Belt. I think where quarterback play gets a little bit overblown too, and some of these the team like Troy has shown that you can run the ball down someone's throat and just sort of beat them.
But Liberty's no slouch either.
Liberty's no slouch. They're no slouch. They are
actually 21st on offense.
Yeah, they've looked drastic on defense though. And my whole thing with Liberty, especially in the North Texas game a couple weeks ago, which is what we were discussing, was they should be actually a lot better defensively, I think, than they were the first couple of games, and that has proven to be completely inaccurate. So you can't just show up in New Mexico and give up like 50-something points. This is what they did, and that's
fair enough.
That's abysmal. So
yeah, that's true.
I don't have anything more to say than the fact that Liberty plays 0 defense. Troy has an outstanding offense, but I don't know. I have no idea how anyone can handicap this when you don't know what the quarterback's going to bring to the table.
Put your gun to your head.
Gun to the head, I will take the points with Liberty because anytime there's a gun to my head in a sports betting field, I want points.
I want points.
Yeah, I don't have a bet on this. Gun to my head. I'll take Troy.
There we go. All right.
Since you got one side, you got the other. I'll take over 64.
I was just going to say
I'll take over 64. Yeah. So yeah, we'll have all sides of that, and then the under will hit, and we'll all be set.
Yeah.
Except for one of your sides. Okay. Well, that got me a little enjoyment.
I'm glad you got some fun out of that.
All right, well, that was actually an 11 o'clock game. Were there any other 9 o'clock starts? Those were the games I saw of key merit, in my opinion. Anything else in the 9 o'clock to the 11 a.m. starts, basically before noon, you see that you guys would like to comment on, make a bet on, talk to the betting public about?
One play that I have is Duke at Georgia Tech. I think Duke will bring it to the table over the Yellow Jackets, and I'm not even going to take the points in this. Give me them on the money line.
Give me the 2.5-point dog on the money line.
Yep.
Right on.
That was the only game I was going to bring up as well. Duke has this is one of those things I don't like to look at history between 2 teams all that much because college teams change so much from year to year. But actually, both coaches have been there for a while, and they're returning a lot of players. So I actually do think the history matters a little bit here. And Duke has a very good record against Georgia Tech, both in covering spreads and just being in close games. I think there's a lot of inflated line here for Georgia Tech just sort of beating bad teams the last couple of weeks. And Duke coming off of a bye is exceptional. They have an exceptional record. I don't know exactly what it is. But
you just know it's exceptional.
No, I mean, I wrote it down somewhere when I was handicapping the game. I just don't keep all the notes. But yeah, they're probably going to play really well here. They have a very, very good defense. A lot of people don't really realize how good Duke's defense is, especially their rush defense, which is obviously the name of the game here. An extra week to prepare against a triple option team, always a fan of. I like Duke definitely in this game. And a quick shout out to our website, vegassquares.com, on the betting for an edge side. We'll have an article up, another Power 5 article, hopefully later today. And the ACC game will feature Duke over Georgia Tech.
The article's up right now, actually, if you go over to the Vegas Squares podcast.
Oh, is that what I said?
It's Saturday.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, fair enough. Okay, yeah. Keep forgetting we record now and go on later, so perfect.
Yep.
So go to the site now.
Any thoughts on Louisville and Boston College? I think this is another game where BC's a good team, 14.5 points. A lot of people who have public money with, even with Lamar Jackson gone, they're just like, well, it's Louisville.
Yeah, this is all A.J. Dillon to me. Whether he plays or not, the starting running back for Boston College, they go as far as he does. It's pretty obvious at this point, and their defense is clearly not as good as it has been in years past. So it's going to fall onto him. He seems to be a total game-time decision question mark. He didn't travel with the team last week in an away game, but this is home, so I think there's a better chance here that he'll go. And he hasn't practiced yet this week, but if you're going to bet on this game, I think you, in my opinion, should wait until the absolute very end during pregame warmups when you know if he's going to play or not. And if you know he will, then you can go ahead and go. And if you know he won't, then you can go for whatever side that you deem best. But this line will move a lot, too, when it's known as well.
Yes, I definitely agree with that statement, Tony. I like Boston College if he does play. If he doesn't, I don't like either side in that spot.
Fair enough. Yeah, I was curious about that because I'm not sure if it's a play on one side or play on the other, whether he plays or not. But
Feels more like a play or no play.
Okay, fair enough.
All right, well, that'll wrap up. Any thoughts on the 9 a.m. games, the noon games on the East Coast? Anybody got anything? Arizona,
I think Rutgers, Maryland's going to be a lot closer than people think, although nobody should watch this game. Maybe the parents of the players might actually tune in to probably Ohio State or something like that because this is brutal. But Rutgers can play a close game here and there, and I think this will be the one that they will do. A lot of players from Rutgers from this region in and around the Maryland area. There's a lot of big-time football high schools in Maryland, so they will be returning home. I believe they have like 16 or 17 players from this area on the roster. So I like Rutgers to keep this close. If you can find a money line that's crazy, which I did happen to find one at plus 1,700, I think there's some value there.
Good old Rutgers.
Again, don't watch the game, but
don't watch it. Just put your money on 17-1, and then at let's see, on the East Coast at about 3:00, check your phone, see if you won.
See what happens. Yeah,
like a little lottery ticket.
Yeah.
The winning number is
scratches.
Rutgers football.
Okay, they could lose by 40 too. That's the beauty of it. That's the beauty of this. So yes,
that is true.
I have a small money line ticket.
All right, well, that is a good recap or a good preview on the 9 a.m. games, the 12 Eastern. Screw it.
Yeah, you do. You struggle with this.
I struggle with time zones. I lived in the Eastern time zone virtually my whole life and still struggle with them.
Okay.
Good thing there's not different minutes. Otherwise, I'd be fucked.
That's true in some parts of the world, right? Where they change the minutes.
No,
yeah,
I believe India has in 15-minute increments.
15-minute, yeah.
Okay. Fucking weirdos.
Yeah.
All right, well, that's a wrap on our previews of the 9 a.m. games that we have interest in. We're going to have some action on those as well. So you should be getting those bets in because the games should be starting. Those games should be starting here very soon. Let's take a look at a 11:45 a.m. Eastern Pacific. God damn it, 11:45 a.m. Pacific game, and that is Pitt at Notre Dame. And I'll be the first to say, I'm done attempting to handicap this Notre Dame team.
Okay. You've given up. You've thrown in the towel.
I do have a non-official play, but again, it's a non-official play. So you have Pittsburgh, you have Notre Dame. Pittsburgh's feeling good after beating Syracuse. I guess that's an upset?
Yes.
Partial upset, yeah.
Yes. That's technically an upset, for sure.
Action right now in this game is pretty much 50-50 at this point. Pittsburgh, not very good on defense, which plays into, obviously, Notre Dame's strength. But is his name Ian or Ivan Book? Ian Book?
Ian. I think it's Ian.
Ian Book, Notre Dame's quarterback, to me so far has been every bit as advertised.
Oh, way more than I think advertised, right?
What, has he completed 70% of his passes since he's been named the starter? And he's got a pretty good go-to target in Miles Boykin, 261 yards, 3 touchdowns. As far as Pitt, they got 2 pretty good running backs. I don't know if they say Allison and Hall. And in my opinion, their quarterback play is pretty mediocre at this point.
It is, but he's got a lot of talent, and he's still just a sophomore. I like what he brings to the table. It's a classic.
Today, he's still a sophomore.
I understand. I'm just trying to preview it all, and I spent the most time in this game compared to the other 50-something, probably over an hour just on this one specifically. And because it's really an interesting game, and it's one of those that you really weren't sure what to think. Maybe, or at least I wasn't until I spent some time in there, and I came up with a pretty good answer, I think. This is my first official definite play. I guess I'm playing Duke as well. But, it's fascinating because Pittsburgh has been a historical team. We like to talk about the Giant Killers, and they have certainly done so over
the last couple of years, yeah.
Yeah, and even going back further, they beat West Virginia to take West Virginia out of the possible
backyard
BCS
brawl,
championship. Yeah, there's some pretty cool
stuff.
stuff.
The Pat White days.
Yeah, for sure. And Pat Narduzzi, their head coach, exemplifies this. He's a high-wired, high-energy, believes they can do anything and beat anyone and play anybody anywhere. And I think usually the kids tend to buy into this, and it makes for a lot of fun games. He's a defensive guy for the most part. He was with Michigan State. He was a defense coordinator for Michigan State for many years until he got the Pittsburgh job. And I think that's where Pittsburgh – my play is going to be Pittsburgh here. I'm getting to that. I know plus 21. And I think that's where they make the most head in this game. I looked at one exact matchup, but I think that's going to be the key to this thing. It's pretty funny because Notre Dame has a very good offensive line, but the greatness of their offensive line is all on the interior. So they got a very good
Which is where
center.
they replaced, because I believe McGlinchey and Nelson.
It's incredible. Yeah, they basically had pretty much 2 or 3 All-Americans back to back to back, especially with guard play. They probably have another All-American that doesn't even play. They tried to move him out to right tackle earlier this year, and it didn't really work out. Again, in different positions, it's tough. But so he's basically riding the pine and would probably be like an All-American type of player. But anyways, tackle-wise is where they struggle, and that's where we've seen Notre Dame have some of their hiccups. Is when they can't protect the quarterback all that well from the outside. And Pittsburgh has a guy. They've got a sophomore named Rashad Weaver who is basically a pure athlete. They recruited from the Fort Lauderdale area, and they're trying to teach him how to play football. And his first year was last year, and he had 3 or 4 sacks and played pretty well down the stretch. And this year he's been a force, a total force. And I think that's where the difference will be in this game, is that we won't see Book have a ton of time like we've seen in the last couple games. And I think it's going to be a pretty close game. I like Pitt for sure, and this one getting the 21. They might have an outside chance to win. We'll see what Notre Dame's motivational level is. They played what many of them have talked about, a season-altering game last week at Va-Tech. They talked about playing in that stadium at night, how crazy cool it was, and I think this is going to be a bit of a reality check. And Pitt just plays well in these games, and I like getting a ton of points.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you look at this head-to-head matchup. Panthers 3-0-1 against the spread. Last 4 meetings inside South Bend. And like you said, 21.5 points or 20.5 points is a lot. The dog in general in this is 8-1-1 last 10 meetings against the spread. And the road team is 7-2-1 in these last 10 meetings as well.
Yeah, that's some good trends to look at. I like Pitt as well in this spot, as well as the under. I think both defenses will show up, and I don't know how Notre Dame's quarterback's going to react to Pitt's defense in that spot. Could be pretty ugly.
This is going to be a lot of fun. The only trepidation I have with Pitt is that Notre Dame has played excellent run defense, especially against some really good, some good rushing teams. I mean, they shut down
Stanford.
Stanford
right into Pittsburgh's strength.
Pretty well. Yeah, I know. Well, that's part of the issue is that Pittsburgh runs the ball so well, and I mean Notre Dame was lights out against Stanford and Wake Forest, 2 really good running teams. So I'm a bit concerned. I'm not trying to negate anyone to make this. I'm fully on Pittsburgh here, but it is a mildly concerning thing to look at.
Well, if you guys want anything more mildly concerning, I've only gotten one Notre Dame game right, and that was the Michigan game.
Okay.
And
So don't
again, no official play. I'm leaning the Panthers plus the points as well.
Wow, fantastic.
So you're both fucked.
Great.
So you're welcome on that one. All right, let's jump. Any other games in that region before we get into like the 12:30 and later games? I think there's only like 2 or 3 in that kind of that time slot.
Yeah,
nothing for me. No.
All right, let's look at a personal favorite of yours, Tony Johnson, the 12:35 Pacific game. I know that they're probably not really personal favorites of yours because you give me that look every time, but the boys at Old Dominion.
I know you just like it because if it's in a play a couple of weeks in a row.
We talked about it. Yeah,
I know it's.
You love these guys. Why? I don't know. We talked about it a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, why not? It's if it's a play and I'm interested in it, then I usually like it.
Well,
so.
I'll tell you what. This one's a shout out to you and shout out to my dad. My dad's actually a Marshall alumnus. So yeah,
interesting.
Yeah, Marshall. He went to Marshall. Marshall is laying 3.5 going into Old Dominion, and they are getting 61% of the action. However, they did just lose their quarterback, Isaiah Green, I believe for the year or at least for an extended period of time to injury.
That's true.
I actually looked to my dad for a little bit of a preview in this game, and he said that the guy coming in, I forget his name, so far in the one game against, I believe, Middle Tennessee they played, he did not look very good. But Middle Tennessee is a decent team.
So, yeah, that guy, Alex Thompson, was supposed to be what many people believe the starter over Isaiah Green, which is really fascinating. He was pegged the starter from the spring game. He played really well. And then I guess as practices progressed, they liked what Green brought to the table, especially being able to run the ball. So that's why he became the starter. So it's interesting that you say that. But I think your dad is right, that when Thompson came in and played early on, or I guess early on in the last
week's game, yeah.
Yeah, he just didn't look very good. He looked uncomfortable. He looked sort of similar, not to make a weird comparison here, but how the quarterback for Texas Tech, Jet Duffy, looked last night in their TCU game. He just looked uncomfortable, and like the moment was too big almost. It was very strange. So we'll see how he reacts to that. I don't know much more. As you know, I also like to stay away from games when we don't know what's going on with like major players. Major running back, a quarterback, something like that. And I think this game sort of plays into it's just a tough game to handicap. And so I looked at it. This one, the polar opposite of Pittsburgh, Notre Dame. Probably spent an hour looking at everything there. Maybe 2 or 3 minutes on this game and moved past it immediately because I have no idea.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, I'm not making a point on this, but if I had to predict it, I would take.
Big cojones, guys.
Yeah, I would take Old Dominion.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, I wouldn't say take the words out of my mouth, but yeah, you're right. The unknown with the quarterback situation presents, well, a cloudy judgment to make a call. I believe Marshall actually has a pretty good defense. They are third in the conference in scoring defense, and other than Virginia Tech, Old Dominion's lost everything. They have been close. And they do have a pretty good running back in Duhart with 700 yards through 6 games, 6 touchdowns. I think I actually might have just switched my pick.
Oh, and you're making fun of me for not going out on a limb, and you're going back and forth on picks here. That's nice.
I'm going to bet the under in this game.
Okay.
I'm going to bet the under.
At least you picked something. I'm happy about that.
Yeah, go me. All right, let's stay in that time zone or time slot. And we've got Michigan State and Penn State. Here's another fun game. I'm sure you looked at this one for more than 2 minutes.
I did. Yes, absolutely. This is one of my favorite games on the whole bill here.
Penn State minus 14, total 53. Penn State getting 63% of the action. Coming off a bye week with a bad taste in their mouth for 2 weeks from... Call it what you want. I'll call it a choke job.
Against Ohio State?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if you're going to choke, I guess you should do it against maybe the second best team.
They had those guys by the short and curlies, and they just let them go.
Yeah.
They are what we thought they were.
That's true.
You let them off the hook.
And the play calling at the end, getting into field goal position, was clearly a disaster, I mean, to put it mildly. So they know that. Unfortunately, I know he had to field questions during this whole bye week. Franklin did, and to his credit, he was stoic and took all the responsibility himself, despite the fact that he's not really calling the plays, although it does all rest on him.
You wear the visor.
Yeah, for sure. And this, I think that both teams will be very, very motivated in this game. I think Michigan State, after this loss to Northwestern, is going to really, really come to play here. This is going to be their game to be able to right the ship in this season, and they have the tools to do it. They have an excellent rush defense. They're giving up less than
33 yards a game.
I thought it was like 1 yard a game. Was that 1.5 yards a game?
I'll have to look again, but when I did my research, I think they're giving up 33 yards a game.
Oh, yeah, for sure. But it's like 1.5 per carry.
Oh, okay.
It's some crazy number. Oh, here we go. I got it right here. Yeah, 33.8 yards per game, 1.32 per carry.
Cannoli.
It's so nuts. And again, too, they haven't played a ton of great rushing teams, so I'll give them that. Although they did stop,
played Northwestern.
Well, yeah, they can't run the ball though without Larkin. That's the thing. They had no.
Like we thought, you thought Moten might be something.
I thought exactly. I thought he might, but he clearly was not.
Not against MSU, yeah.
Not against them. But they did really well at Arizona State actually against a very good runner, Benjamin. That was more impressed there. But so I think they'll play really well, and they have the tools to be able to make Penn State a little bit more one-dimensional than they want to be on offense. So I think that'll keep this game a little bit closer than expected. But all that being said, Penn State's going to come out high-flying too, and they are very tough to stop.
So you think You think Michigan State can shut down McSorley's legs and Sanders?
I don't think they can shut him down. I think that they'll keep them a little bit more in check, and Penn State will react, and probably react well, and they'll open it up, especially probably towards the second half. And I actually think points will fly in this game. I haven't made the bet per se yet, but I do like and I usually bet, as you know, unders and underdogs, but I actually like the over in this one, especially since it's come down and opened at, I think, 56.5. I like it right now at 53, so probably going to end up betting this one, but haven't done it yet.
Yeah, token, Trace McSorley in his time at Penn State, his 2 best career games are against the Spartans.
Make it 3.
There we go.
And all-time great record might be coming down. Well, not the all-time record, but the all-time great, I don't know if you guys know this guy, Christian Hackenberg.
I thought it was going to be Kerry Collins. Okay.
That's what I thought it was.
Yeah.
When I was told Christian Hackenberg was the leader, when I read Christian Hackenberg was the leader in passing yards for Penn State history, I was shocked.
Yeah, I would not have
considering he's been pretty mundane for college and his professional career. McSorley can pass him with 40 passing yards. Over under halftime.
Oh, probably within the first quarter.
First drive.
Well, yeah, McSorley, I mean, if they get out to a big lead, McSorley's not going to throw the football. It's not a bad line. Yeah, you talked about MSU or the Spartans' run defense, but I think if you dive a little bit deeper, they're pretty Swiss cheese through the air.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, Michigan State's won 4 out of the last 5, including last year. And now we look at revenge games. Now we look at sour taste in his mouth. Do you think it's a Penn State team that may try too hard in this spot? I know you're on the total. Let's just look at this. Let's look at the sides.
I don't know. That's hard to sort of quantify. I don't know how.
I mean, they're 20-year-old kids, 21-year-old kids who got beat by Ohio State 2 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
And they got beat by this Michigan State team last year that probably a little bit derailed some of their playoff hopes and dreams.
Yeah, for sure. No, I think I've looked at it more from the side that they're going to be super motivated and very likely play well, but to try too hard or to make it too difficult on themselves against a team that we know can play up in big spots. And Michigan State is renowned for that. Could certainly pose an issue. Yeah, no, I haven't thought about it that way, but it's an interesting outlook for sure.
Either way, I don't have an official play, but I'm on the lean over as well, so I'm leaning toward the over. All right, let's move Baylor and Texas. Speaking of a team that's been getting a lot of fanfare and praise, I got a friend who lives in Austin, and he said all the boosters and backers are just, we're back, baby.
Yeah.
They're laying 2 touches in this spot. Getting total 60.5. They're getting 60% of the action here is the Longhorns. Coming off the Red River rivalry, like I said, hype and talk is definitely getting big again. And this is the Tom Herman we hired and yada yada this. I mean, could you imagine if they beat Maryland too?
Oh, God, it would be unending. Absolutely unending.
They'd be higher than, what are they, 12 at this point?
14.
14? Yeah, they'd be higher than that at this point, I tell you that. Before we dive into the game, speaking specifically about Sam Ehlinger, he's starting to enter Heisman talk at this point.
Again, based on our website, there was a Heisman article that was written a few weeks ago by a named source here that was promoting Sam Ehlinger and been a big fan of his for a while now.
Who wrote that article?
I don't know. Some guy named TJ. Initials, but no. I
got some dirt on your shoulder. You want to brush it off for you?
I haven't. I won't. I'll brush it off if goes all the way here.
If he goes to New York.
Yeah, he needs probably 3 or 4 more games. They look like the last one. But, no, kidding aside, he's the total package and a quarterback that they've, I think, needed and wanted for a long time. He's totally fearless running the ball. He's got a fantastic arm, and he seems like he's got the sort of pedigree to play the position in a spot where you have to have a good head on your shoulders, and not any just one person can be the starting quarterback at Texas. It's just a tough spot to do it, and you got to be mentally ready to go, and he certainly has it. A lot of people expected Buechele to vie for the starting job, and
never really got
from the spring game on.
Yeah,
it wasn't even close.
He wasn't close.
And
he's had 2 years to do that, and Ellinger's
right.
just been putting him in his place.
And now we know why. So
it's true.
Because this guy, he can really play. So I'm pleased with that. I'll admit, as you know, I am biased. I do have a ticket at Ellinger at 150 to 1 to win the Heisman. So I do hope this does continue. He's going to need his team to do that as well. And unfortunately, this week I don't see it. They're coming off of wins: USC, TCU, K-State, and Oklahoma, 4 straight weeks. It's just and then they have the bye, and I've talked about this before. The bye after
you did say this was the meat and bones of their schedule.
It is, and they got through it. I can't believe they got through it clean. It's amazing they didn't lose one of these 4 games. And now you have a home game against Baylor in really bad weather. It looks like, and it's. This game is going to be bad.
You touched on it. The weather is going to be real intense in this one.
Yeah. This looks like a pretty ugly affair. Baylor's played a lot better, as we know, and they've really come around nicely. I'm very impressed with what they've done. Not saying they're going to necessarily win the game, but I think this is going to be another one of those, like when in the K-State game 2 weeks ago that Texas played, where it's just close.
Yeah.
It's close, and it's like a tie late. Everyone's uncomfortable. The boosters are mad again, and here we go again. And
there's steam.
Yeah, just
ripping out their chest hair.
Take the 14 or 14 and a half, wherever you can find it.
Get rid of this Herman guy.
And go home. That's where I'm at. Another play for me, and I will be on Baylor, getting the points.
Man, are you reading my sheet?
Well, maybe we have a little bit of idea what we're doing. We could lose all of these.
We could lose all this.
So let that be known.
We may have the sharpest idea, or
we may know nothing. Absolutely. But, we'll go down together.
I'm on Baylor as well. I'm betting this one as well. Baylor has the ability to put up points, but I think the weather is huge in this spot. Texas plays pretty good defense, and I think they're going to be aided by the elements. And really, because I just want to put him in my preview, and I really don't have anything to say, Lil Jordan Humphrey.
I love that name. You know I like that name, too. It's a great name.
Yeah, I like Baylor in this
I didn't have anything to put in there. I just wanted to say his name.
I like Baylor in the spot as well, and definitely one of my plays is going to be the under in this game for sure, with the weather being the big factor.
That's a good one, too. Yeah, I like that one as well.
Fair enough. All right, Texas A&M, Jimbo's Jets, and South Carolina. Home game for South Carolina, and it's going to be an interesting one. Right now, currently, the line is Texas A&M favored by 2 on the road, and the total is 53 in this spot. 2 tough teams to really cap right now. Texas A&M 4-2, 2-1 in the SEC. Still got their hopes alive, even though they've lost to Bama. Really need this game to continue that. Obviously, Kellen Mond's been playing really good. The picks could come down a little bit, but he's got pretty good behind him. Trevion Williams, he's got 7 touchdowns this year. South Carolina side, who's going to start at quarterback at this point?
I'm unsure. It looked like from the information I had that Bentley was probable, I guess, to play. So I would assume that he would. All that being said, though, I have no play on this one. I don't really have a lot to add. I think those are 2 very evenly matched teams that both sort of do about the same things well, and I have no idea what's going to happen in this one.
Yeah, I agree with that statement. In that spot, I would lean towards taking the home dog for sure, though. If they're evenly matched, I think there's value in that.
See, I don't know if I necessarily agree that they're evenly matched. I know you're pretty high on South Carolina. We've talked about that.
Sammons look good this year too. I'm high there as well. They've looked excellent.
Yeah, I think they're the better team, and even on the road, even going to where going to Columbia where they're going. I have to look at exactly what the money line is, but I feel like maybe taking a couple extra pennies off of. Just paying more juice, just taking the money line. What is the money line? Anybody got that up?
I'll pull it up.
Yep.
But I just I was looking at funny odds and ends, as they say, and I know the SEC is tough, but the Aggies have scored at least 13 points in 33 consecutive games. It just doesn't seem like a high number.
At least 13?
13 points. Kind of a little bit for you guys, well, a little bit for Token if he's on the dog. Underdog the last 4 meetings, which are their only 4 meetings. The dog is 3-0-1 against the spread, so that's good for you.
Yeah, money line's plus 110.
For Texas A&M?
Oh, for Texas A&M, it's minus 130.
Yeah, so I'd pay 20 cents in juice just for that spot right there.
Otherwise, the line is, it's 2, you said?
It's
2, yeah. 2.5, depending on where you look. Yeah. I was looking at 2 when I did my research, so it could be plus or minus half point either way. So, so I'm just going to take the 130. I think Texas A&M is the better team right now, and on a neutral field, they would be the better team. So I think even though it is in South Carolina, and Will Muschamp's not there anymore, is he? He's still there, right?
He is. He's the head coach.
Will Muschamp's a pretty good coach.
He is.
He's just not going to get it done right now.
So is Jimbo, though. Excellent coach, too.
I think Jimbo's one of the only, 3 head coaches with a ring right now? 3 or 4?
Yeah, that's weird. I saw that.
130 football teams, and there's 4 coaches with a ring.
That's so strange.
Was Dabo, Meyer, Saban, and Jimbo, right?
I think there's only 4, yeah.
Yeah, Dabo,
so
Meyer,
weird.
Saban, and Jimbo. I'm gonna lean the guy that wears a ring, so. All right, let's talk about my boys. So go easy on us, okay? UCF, 4.5-point favorite at Memphis. The total is actually 1 million. We're closer to 81, actually. It's 1 million. I don't want to sound too homery, so I'll let you guys start it off.
Go ahead, Token. Lead us off.
All right. Like you said, 1 million on the total. I think it could be 5 million by the time this one's over.
We got
just for fairness, the total is 81. So UCF's getting 75% of the action on that number, 4.5 right now.
Yeah.
Did open up actually at 3.5 and it's been bet up a point.
Yes. Not too worried about that movement right now. As right now, I like UCF minus the points. I think it comes down to who makes the most mistakes, whether it be turnovers or penalties. I don't think UCF's that team that would do them doom. So I'll take UCF in this spot.
I'm surprised the line's as low as it is. I expected them to be at least a touchdown favorite, and it's actually working the opposite way with me. It's giving me a lot of pause here. I don't really understand why they're not bigger favorites. Memphis has been definitely subpar this year, I think, overall. I mean, we certainly expected them to have a great offense. I mean, Mike Norvell is an absolute genius offensively, but I'm surprised at defensively how poor they've been against just realistic teams. You know, they gave up 35 points against South Alabama. They gave up 40 to Tulane, which is just totally inexcusable.
Yeah, strange games.
Yeah, they're strange, very odd games. Against some weaker teams, they haven't given up very much, I'll grant you that. But they still only put up 21 points. 21 points in a loss at Navy earlier this year. Navy has definitely a worse team than they have in years past. Although I might be taking them later on if we talk about it. But I really I don't understand. Beating up on UConn and Georgia State it does not mean anything to me. Absolutely nothing. So I don't know. It's one of those things like somebody knows something kind of lines. I hate to be one of those creepy guys, but it seems like a slam dunk for UCF, but I just don't know why the line isn't bigger. They seem to be better in basically every facet of the game, maybe besides running the ball. I don't think there's many better runners than Darrell Henderson.
Henderson, yeah. But they got 1,000 yards and 7 carries.
And the second guy, Patrick Taylor, would probably be a starter on most other teams too. So, but even that, I don't really care. Like I don't care. This seems like a slam dunk for UCF. I'm just really worried about why the line is so low.
Well, head-to-head matchups, the last 11 meetings, UCF versus Memphis. The home team is 10-1 against the spread.
Wow.
The Knights 1-4 against the spread last 5 meetings in Memphis. So that could be a little bit. I agree with you. I think this total should be a touchdown to 10 points.
Yeah.
Memphis is looking for revenge here right now. They lost twice last year to UCF, including the AAC conference game.
That's true.
Which in that game, I believe they scored 2 million points.
That was a close game.
It was like 56-55.
Very, very close game.
Yeah.
Good game.
Yeah. Tigers 6-1 against the spread last 7 home games. Overall, 20-8 the last 28 games after getting 450 yards the previous game. Oh,
Everybody gets 450 against UConn, though.
that's true. Well, yeah, so did UCF, at that point, too. Hold on to your seats, boys. I think Memphis is going to beat them.
Really?
I do. I think Memphis is going to beat them.
Wow.
I think this is a team
That's a bold pick,
especially
coming from you.
This is a team that UCF has struggled with, and I understand they beat them twice last year, but those were the 2 best games of the season for them. Every time Memphis plays them inside that Liberty Bowl, they give them fits. And 18 games, as this starts to churn, it starts to put pressure on what you guys like to call a G5 team. And this isn't Alabama. I mean, as much as I love UCF and I want them to go run up against the big boys, things like this start to get to teams that are filled with 2- and 3-star recruits.
Ooh, they've got a couple of 4-stars though too. UCF has.
Yeah, when I was at UCF, getting a 4-star recruit was like fucking stop the presses.
Not when Frost showed up though.
McKenzie was a 4-star recruit, but I'll have to go back. I don't know exactly, so I'm not going to debate you on that.
They had 3 coming in last year.
I mean, compared to compared to Texas A&M, which could get 5 stars.
Well, of course.
Well, I understand, but I'm saying even in their look at Florida State. Those guys are getting 4 and 5 stars. Getting 4 stars if you're a Florida State, it's like, we'll see where he fits.
I understand, but they're in a good spot though. To being in Central Florida is going to help, and that is the hotbed of high school football. You're going to get some really talented.
Sure, you are. You're going to get some guys who were maybe overlooked. I mean, I get it. I mean, I covered the team. I worked for the team, and you got a lot of 2-star guys that put in the work and they get what they work. They get the effort out of it. This is a prime spot for this streak to end.
Wow, fair enough. That's bold. This is probably why I have trepidation here, because there's comments like this that give me pause. I haven't bet it yet, but it just seems too good to be true.
The line seems, yeah.
Yeah.
The last time UCF was in the Liberty Bowl in a game of any relevance, they actually beat Georgia. And I'm not saying Memphis is irrelevant, but Memphis hasn't been, in years past, they haven't been. They had the D'Angelo Williams years where they were really good, and then they struggled for a long time. And then, what's his name? Riley Ferguson the last 4 years has been pretty good. So there was a gap.
Justin Fuente really.
For sure. But there was a time period in there where they were a dumpster fire.
Yeah, for sure.
So a lot of the UCF appearances in Memphis and Liberty Bowl were fairly easy. So, anyways, that hurts my stomach to say, but
wow.
I think if there's a spot where UCF can get tripped up this year, it's this spot right here against Memphis.
Okay.
So I'll take the 4.5 and I'll take the money line.
Wow. Are you going to actually bet this? Are you too much of a homer to try to make money?
I bet the 4.5 already.
Wow.
I'm gonna wake up and see how I feel on Saturday.
Wow. Okay.
If the money line is anything decent, I'm curious. At 4.5, the money line is probably $180, $210.
I would say about 200 probably at the most. I would guess.
If I'm getting 2-1 on my money, I'll take a stab at it.
Okay.
As Token likes to say, it could go either way. So.
I do like that quote.
Yeah.
Well, were you ever listen to the initial episodes with him making bets?
I did not the original ones. No.
Plus 170 on the money
Plus
line.
170. Yeah. So even the fact that they're down a little bit, it still kind of makes me feel a little better about Memphis. Point being is getting back to the original ones. We did an NFL show or an NCAA show. I swear the first 7 picks, he's like, it could go either way. And I'm like, dude, you got to fucking take a side.
I just remember the Super Bowl. We were talking about the Super Bowl.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
I don't know if that was the first one or not.
But that was another one, too. Yeah. He was like, it could go either way. I'm like, dude,
kept saying
shit or get off the pod.
It was awesome. I don't know why. I found it very entertaining.
Yeah, that's how gambling goes. It could go either way. you gotta make it. All right, let's talk about the Bayou Bengals, and they're hosting Georgia. 7.5 points.
Great game.
All right, well then, total 51. Action's pretty much split. Token Tony, listen to Tony Johnson.
All right.
Well, I don't know if you should always listen to me, although this one I do have a play on. And another play. There's a lot
taking
of
some money out of his
plays.
wallet.
Almost all of the 12:30 games that seemingly have have at least a lean or a play. This one is another. I know I bet on a lot of unders in SEC games, but here's another one where we're going to be at it. I did get it at 51. I don't know if that's still the current line, but
I believe so.
This is one of those, I think, just matchup deals where you have strength versus strength across the board.
Offense versus defense.
Yeah, and weakness versus weakness, too. I don't really feel like...
You feel like LSU's offense is weak, or you just think that's a product of Burrow's last couple games?
I think they only go...
Nick Brissett's pretty good.
Oh, absolutely. And
Georgia's defense, I believe, is like second in scoring in the conference.
For sure. I actually think...
So when you say weakness versus weakness, I'm just trying to find it.
Yeah, no, well, Georgia's pass defense has been their issue. If you're going to
Drew Lock made them look pretty bad.
Quite. And I just think Georgia, they've had a lot of issues in coverage, on third downs especially. I know Kirby's talked about this a bunch of times, about how bad they've been on third down when they brought in different packages and things like that. They haven't communicated very well. They've made some very, I think, amateur mistakes in that realm. And but I can't see LSU capitalizing this. As you said, Joe Burrow is not the quarterback to be able to beat you. They're two-headed running back in the backfield. With that term again.
Swift and
no, I'm going with. I'm
you're talking about LSU. Okay.
Yeah, Edwards-Helaire, I think, actually might almost be better than Brissett in a couple of different ways. I know he doesn't get talked about the same way, and probably shouldn't.
All right.
But he's an excellent north-south runner, and he's not going to be as shifty as Brissett, and I understand that. But he's a guy that can get you 1 or 2 yards at any given time just by almost seemingly falling forward. Really good runner, like him a lot, and just seeing this like old school 1985 just slugfest of a game back and forth. I love LSU's rush defense as well here, and their defensive backs they might be well now with all the injuries Alabama has, probably the best defensive backfield in the SEC. So I like this one to be close and low scoring, sort of what we would expect from these two teams. So I'm not going too far on a limb here, but I'll take Georgia in a 3-point victory. We'll go with 24-21 final.
So LSU, you're on the side of LSU.
I'd be on the side of LSU, although for betting purposes, for when I'm actually betting, I'm only betting the under. I'm not going to actually bet on the spread there just because, I don't know, I think the game is a little bit too close to call. You better start covering up that sheet. That's right.
You're literally just tracing at this point.
Yeah, I believe Georgia wins this one, and I also do like the under in this spot as well. But I don't think Georgia has enough to cover this game fully. I think they win by about a touchdown, 27-20 final.
We're pretty close then. There we go.
You guys have basically said everything I had planned for the preview, so I'm betting LSU and under. So I'm going to parlay this one.
Excellent.
LSU plus the points. Let me preface that because I did go balls deep on the Memphis money line. So, all right, Washington laying 3 at Oregon. Another fun game that should shape up to be what you would expect as a Pac-12 shootout. Do we buy that?
Token?
I don't know if this total, it seems pretty low. It's 57.5 right now.
That's what kind of gave me a little bit of a pause because I feel like a total with Oregon, and I understand it's a different defense, different regime, but I feel like a total with Oregon usually sits around the 60s.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Washington's defense, maybe? I don't know. I feel like Oregon may play better defense than Washington. But yes, Washington has Gaskin and Browning, which I've been pretty high on this year myself. Even coming out of that Auburn game, I think they still played good football, and they've obviously played good football the rest of the year as well. They are 3-0 in the Pac-12, looking at this point to take the North, basically away from Oregon, the only real competitor.
Game.
Stanford, yes, but Stanford's lost to Oregon.
Yes.
Definitely. No, excuse me. Stanford has beaten Oregon. I apologize.
Well, This is a. I know I like to say this in the articles. In the Betting for an Edge articles, but this is a classic, I believe, fade the public and fade everyone game. I know everyone is expecting, why is this total so low? Oregon plays, Oregon's a scoring juggernaut, et cetera, et cetera. This is a game where I think it'll go under, and it'll go under by a lot, would be my guess. So I don't know if there's any part of the pleasing community out there that want to go opposite of teasers, but this would be a spot to do so. I really like the matchup, just like in a similar spot of strength versus strength, weakness versus weakness in the Georgia-LSU game. It's very, very similar spot here. I do agree with you that Oregon plays a lot better defense than people certainly give them credit for.
I'll back your trends up here. Under 4-0 last 4 games on turf for the Huskies. Under 4-0 versus a team with a winning record. Under 5-1 last 6 games overall for Washington. Coming out of a bye, Ducks games 7-3 the last 10. 10-4 the last 14 out of a straight-up win. The under's a hot trend right now.
Yes.
But it's not the public trend.
No, it certainly isn't, and I like the fact that the total is under 60. I'm glad to see that I was sort of aligned. This is one of those games I looked at before the totals came out, and I was hoping it'd be around this type of number, and it is, and it just seems like a really, really good spot. The main thing that I think the mainstream might not be looking at is Oregon offense. These great Oregon offenses that we saw that put up a lot of points. Well, they were also running a lot of plays per game, and the amount of plays that they ran from one to the next. So you can look at like the time per play. Used to be very, very short. They used to play very quick, obviously, in the old Chip Kelly system. Mm-hmm. It's basically not the polar opposite, but they're pretty much doing very, very different things now. So they've built this team. Cristobal has built this team a lot around the offensive line, and he's maneuvering guys in and out. So they're actually substituting a lot on their O-line, more so than what would be the normal skill position players. And so that's slowing down. That's slowing down the pace, and that's slowing down how many plays they're running per game. And
Vegas is not really catching up yet. Well, it looks like they may actually be with the 57 total.
Yeah, I believe that will be kind of bet up before kickoff, too. So if you do like
that's
the
an interesting point. Yeah.
I do like to wait for that.
Yeah, because usually this would be a Pacific time, zone game, but it's not. It's actually kind of right in the middle of the day.
Yeah.
Yeah, they got a primetime game on national TV, so I think both teams are very pleased, I'm sure, about that. And as it should be. As you said, this is a game that will...
I think that helps for public betting on smashing. I mean, if the 9 o'clock games don't go their way, they're going to start smashing the over. Oh, it's Oregon football.
Right.
Yeah.
So
good. And I like that. Yeah.
So you might want to wait. Yeah, I agree. I think that's totally on point, Tony. And but either way, whatever line you get, I think the under is the right play in this one.
Yeah. And one trend to follow too. The favorite in the last 21 meetings in this head-to-head is 16-4-1. So that's a very big trend and makes me want to lean towards Washington in the spot, but.
My play is Washington. I may, just based on your all's talking, I may take the under in that, maybe a little parlay, but I like Washington in the spot too. I've been high on them since the beginning, even before the Auburn game. I think they have a really good team. And I'm hoping that with one loss, this team actually has a chance to get back and maybe get some revenge on Alabama for a couple years ago.
No doubt. If they run off their next 12 games in a row after losing to Auburn,
yeah, the question really is
tough to hold them out.
Who's I don't want to use ball washing again. Who's jock or the playoff committee washing this year?
Well, if Notre Dame goes undefeated,
well, if UCF and Notre Dame go undefeated,
UCF has no chance.
Fuck you.
Yes, there it is. I'm just telling you. It's not.
You're telling me a team
opinion.
2 years in a row goes undefeated, and no matter what conference they play,
they have no chance.
That's blasphemy. Then it's a complete sham. It's a complete farce, and it's only done for ratings. And okay, I've said my piece. And we're going to say a lot more piece when those actual 4 balls come out. So,
yeah, I mean it's just unlikely that they're probably going to go undefeated. I mean, as you said, they might lose this week. They still play USF. They have some tougher games.
Sure. I think if they go undefeated, and if I'm completely wrong about this, they blow them out. They blow out USF. You can't leave them out, and you can't leave Notre Dame out.
Yeah.
So that leaves Alabama, and that leaves 4 conferences vying
Ohio State.
for. Well, maybe. Yeah, it leaves 4 conferences. I mean, you talked about Texas. If Ohio State loses a game to Michigan, or I believe they still have. Yeah, they have. They still have Michigan State left too.
Michigan State's not doing shit this year, but
okay. Well, maybe.
All right, there we go.
It's coming from a Michigan State fan.
Yeah, no, fair enough.
Yeah, I took Northwestern last week, and not even on the money line too. So.
That's why you're sick.
Yeah.
No, we can get into a discussion about that at a later date for sure. But
I'd rather spend the last 32 minutes on this fucking pot. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, so we're on Washington. We like the under. That's our spot there. I'm betting that one. I'm betting Washington. I'll probably sprinkle a little bit on the under. We would be remiss if we didn't talk the only college football team in Las Vegas. We're going to talk UNLV at Utah State. It's a 1 p.m. game here on the Pacific time zone. Utah State You know they play, right? They have a football team.
Oh, I know. I actually
Look at his face.
I like what UNLV's doing this year. I don't remember what the line was. It was somewhere.
It's like 27.
27. It's 27, okay. Total 63 right now.
Oh, there we go. Okay. I'm good now.
All right. Now that we're back, 63% of the action's on Utah State. Everybody saw what they did last week to BYU. I actually had a funny bet. I just want to get off on a tangent here. One of the guys in my job, one of my customers in my job, claims himself to be a pretty avid and pretty sharp sports bettor, which, fine, whatever. You know, everybody likes to talk. We like to consider ourselves a little sharp, too. Said that BYU was going to roll them strictly because of the revenge factor of Utah State last year. Because Utah State beat them 2 years ago. Said strictly because of the revenge factor, BYU is going to roll them. I said, I'll tell you what. I said, I'll call Utah State to cover the spread that BYU is giving right now. So I basically said, flip the spread. He goes, I'll do you one better. I said, I'll give you that. And I said, I think Utah State will beat the shit out of them. And he goes,
Were you just goading him saying this, or
kind of? Okay. Yeah, I was kind of just needling him. I said, Utah State's going to win by 30. He said, I tell you what, if Utah State, I'll give you 5,000 to 1 if Utah State wins by 30. I said, okay, book it for $1. They won by 29 points. They beat BYU by 29 points.
I watched a lot of that game.
And I haven't seen him since. That was, a week and a half ago almost?
Wow.
So, not that I expected him to pay. It was just,
no.
I wanted a firm handshake and just a little bit of groveling. That's all I wanted. I didn't expect the 5,000 to 1.
The game was incredibly one-sided, though. It was still shocking it was that one-sided.
Yeah.
I mean, Utah State can play, no doubt, but, I mean, that is still shocking that it was
that
one-sided now.
Exactly. I mean, they control, in this actual matchup, virtually every major edge category. Time of possession, penalties, offense, defense, special teams. I like UNLV getting 28 points, 27.5 points.
Yeah.
Before we talk about the game, and this will kind of be part of the game, at what point is Tony Sanchez on a hot seat?
Not at all.
Not at all? I mean, what is this, year 4? Year 3?
I think you got to look at what he...
I don't think the program... You may know more than I do. I don't think the program's trended upwards at all. I think, what's his name, Armani Richards is terrible.
What?
Yes, I think he's terrible.
Terrible?
I think he's terrible.
He's
more terrible than Terrible Herbst.
Some would say that Rogers might be one of the better dual-threat quarterbacks in the non-Power 5, if not, like...
he's not better than Mackenzie Milton.
Mackenzie Milton has a lot better teammates to work with.
Okay.
And he's in a lot better situation. So while I definitely would prefer Mackenzie Milton, I'm not trying to say that, he's in a way better spot in a way better situation.
Because why?
What do you mean, because of why? Well,
I mean, I look at his... Maybe, and again, I don't watch UNLV football, but his stats are terrible.
Well, I mean, it depends on how you look at the stats.
Well, I don't know. I listen to local radio, and this guy's the freaking second coming of Jesus, and I think he's terrible.
All right, well, okay.
Again, my I guess don't take... You're more in depth than I am at this point.
Yeah.
So I'll lean to you. Tell me why he's not terrible. I got 38 minutes.
So he's basically doing what exactly the coaching staff and what the offensive scheme has been calling for. So if we know anything about Tony Sanchez, even back from his high school days, it's needing a dual-threat quarterback that can make decisions in a RPO-based offense. And Armani Rogers did this in high school as well. So he kind of got the exact sort of right fit. He hasn't been able to stay healthy, and that's been the biggest difference with Rogers, is not being able to be healthy and play. But as...
And what are you more impressed with, getting bulldozed by New Mexico or keeping it close against USC in the early season?
Well, he didn't play against New Mexico. That's my whole point, is that without him playing, he's out for the next 6 or 7 weeks. So that's part of the issue, is that he got hurt in the Arkansas State game, which was a rain-fest disaster. And unfortunately, he was in late in the game. They were only down 7, so I get it. But I don't remember what the exact injury is, but he was only supposed to be out.
See, I didn't know he was out that game. Damn, that kind of kills me.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why they got blown out.
Fair enough. So, all right.
I think keeping it close against Southern California and then having 2 routes back-to-back after that really cemented the thought of that these guys are really here to play and ready to go. But unfortunately, as you have correctly noted, that he may be overrated in your mind, but they don't have a lot behind him. And when you can only go so far as your starting quarterback and there's not much more behind, certainly they have a great running back as well, but it's just not enough. And Do I want to take like 27 or whatever, how many points it is? I mean, I don't know.
Well, to be honest, I mean, this line opened up at 18.
Oh, I
Yes.
was 20.
Which means
No, really?
It opened up at 18 and went up to 27, yes.
this line has moved 9 points from the opening line. When that opening
must have been like an early season when you could bet on all the UNLV games, because that can't.
Potentially, but still, the fact of the matter is this line's moved up 9 points.
Yeah.
That means a lot of action is on, I would imagine, is on Utah State at this point.
I would assume so, but I think that more has to do with probably a maneuvering of the line and not exactly money. Because
You think so?
Yes, because with Armani Rogers out, that changes. Like, he is one of the most important quarterbacks to their team that there is. So why he's good?
Garbage.
Okay. Well, I mean, again, we could talk about this for a while too, but he's a good quarterback for the system because he does exactly what's asked, and he's really good at making decisions, whether to pull a ball or whether to run with it. He's really good at evading tackles. He's not only a great east-west, but he's a great north-south runner. Doesn't go down easily. Always makes the first guy miss. He's just a guy that you want in a system like this. So. Again,
he belongs in that blue bin that's in my garage that goes out on Mondays.
We can disagree with how good he is or how he isn't, and that's fine. And it's a great opinionated topic. But I like the guy a lot.
I won't give you the satisfaction for your UCF remarks.
No problem. That's fine. I don't have a play in this game, but
I do. After all that said, I'm taking UNLV.
Okay, fair enough. So,
28 points is a lot, and I think there's. Yeah, that probably moved 5 or 6 points based on Armani Rogers' absence, but I still think even 3 touchdowns is a lot. And again, Utah State, I think they're a product. They're what's the word I'm looking for? The public is prisoner of the moment with them.
Yeah, what UNLV needs to do this game to keep it marginally close is rush the ball and rush it well, too. So open up that pass game.
All right, let's look at the late game action. And we've got about a half hour left in our podcast. Again, we want to just thank you for listening. We want to thank 12-Ounce Sports Radio. We haven't thanked our sponsors, any of them. 12-Ounce Sports Radio, VGK Pop Sockets, ChaiPoker.com. I want to thank all those guys. If you're interested in sponsoring the show, please get at us, and you know where to catch us. Our Twitter handle is @VegasSquares, and our email address is vegassquares@gmail.com. All right, talk about the late games, the 4 p.m. Pacifics. Miami, after a come-from-behind victory against their rival Florida State, that still kind of punched me in the gut. They're getting 69% of the action on -6.5, total 48. They are going to UVA, where they had a little bit of a trouble last year when they were riding high. First half, they were a little bit sluggish, but they came back and beat UVA. But right now, my first initial question, did Miami spend too much energy and effort coming back against Florida State?
I believe so. I think they needed to, but I think that kind of hurt them for this week coming up. So I actually do like Virginia in the spot. I mean, home dog getting 7.
Started at 9.
Yeah. I still like it at 7. I think Miami still wins this game, but they can get off to an early deficit and still come back and win by a field goal. So,
how do you say that quarterback's name? Nkosi? Nakasi? Nagasaki?
I've heard Nkosi, but I don't know if that's exactly the correct pronunciation.
All right, we'll go with Nkosi.
Announcers aren't always right, so
yeah.
Who knows?
Do you pronounce the apostrophe? No, I'm just kidding. Which one of him will show up?
Tough to say. I wish I had more of a distinct opinion on this one. There's a reason why he wasn't the starter the last couple of years, when I think he's a lot more talented than Malik Rosier. But you get a great product, or you get really a subpar one, and it's hard to predict. And that's why I'm sort of staying away from this game, because they're clearly a better team in most all facets versus Virginia. But Virginia's a tough team. They play exactly like their head coach, Mendenhall, and it's they play hard, and they have a very strong defensive front, which could pose Miami problems. I think that's one of the reasons why the line is low enough. Don't have a play here. I think it'll be a good, close enough game, but Miami pulling away at the end wouldn't shock me one way either, or tied going into the final possession also not a shock.
Yeah, I mean, UVA, like I said, coming off a bye, looking a little bit of revenge factor. Something's got to give in the head-to-head. Underdog 12-1 last 13 meetings. and road team 6-1 last 7 meetings. So something's really got to give in that spot because the underdog is not the road team. You're a quarterback guy. What do you know about this Perkins dude?
Again, fits the system really well. Another great dual threat quarterback that's running exactly what they want. It took Mendenhall a couple of years to really find the right guy. He had a pass first quarterback for the first couple seasons, and I think that was part of the reason for the struggles. I like him a lot. I like the decision making, and he's not as shifty as some of the other guys that you would necessarily want. He's not going to get you like huge chunk plays in the RPO sets where he keeps it, but he's a good player, and he doesn't turn the ball over, and it's pretty much exactly what they're looking for. I think there's a few other spots they need to fix on defense, and if they picked up another receiver that could go down the field and actually make some plays, that might help a little bit too. But Virginia's, to me, pretty close to being a pretty good ACC team. I'm not calling for them to win a ACC championship in the next coming years or anything like that, but I think with him at the helm, they're in a pretty good spot going forward.
Yeah, I mean, coming off a bye week, Virginia is 9-2 against the spread, and the last 5 games overall, they are 4-1 against the spread this season. So it is definitely trending toward UVA in this spot. The over looks like it has more of the hot trends. UVA has won 3 out of the last 4 in Charlottesville. So, yeah, I think my pick right here is UVA with the points.
Nice. So both you guys on UVA. Excellent.
All right. We went from UVA to WVU, laying 6.5 at Iowa State, who just beat Oklahoma State last week, which you said is not as big of a upset as one may predict.
It was their third-string quarterback, though, theoretically, that did it. So I think that was really impressive.
And they did that last year against Oklahoma, too.
It's amazing, isn't it, what Campbell can do
they
with
just start the one guy and then go to their third string the next
It's unbelievable. Yeah, it really is. That was the most impressive thing about it. Yes, beating Oklahoma State I don't think is the biggest deal this year, as it normally is in most years. But certainly very impressive to do with the quarterback. And David Montgomery, probably their best offensive player, also struggling with injuries. He got hurt in the third quarter there and is questionable to play in this game, and is a really important piece for this one. So I'm not saying it's still on the A.J. Dillon realm of Boston College, but to me it's important enough, and he's supposedly a pure game time decision that I don't know. I don't really want to necessarily deal with this. What's more surprising to me is how bad West Virginia has played on defense the last few weeks. I had them last week against KU, and I still think that wager was a good one. They turned the ball over 4 times in the red zone, which is pretty insane. They had no turnovers in the red zone coming into the game, and actually converted touchdowns all but 1 time. So that was a bit of a shocker, but I don't know. Defensively, they have not been on point the last few games as they were earlier in the season, so that gives me a little pause. No play here, but I think it'll be a great game, though. Two good teams for sure.
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, Will Greer, what more can be said? He's another Heisman guy.
For sure. 100%. Yeah, he's got all the tools to be a great player, even at the next level, too. I think he looks good. He looks good for sure.
Yes, I believe he is definitely trying to make that Heisman statement and gets it done with this game to make it more official in that talk. I believe they easily cover. They win by 2 scores this time.
Oh, wow. Okay. There we go.
Yeah, I think I'm on that side, too. I don't have an actual play on this, but I think I'm on West Virginia just being able to just outscore them. 67% of the money is coming in on that side. I think 10 to 14 point victory, yeah. All right, UCLA at Cal. Boy, the Chip Kelly era has not gone off swimmingly, to say the least.
Oh, but they're getting better, though. They're getting better. They've played a lot better the last few games. The Colorado game before Washington was actually relatively close for a long time, too. And Colorado is looking, as the weeks progress, to be quite a good team. So, So on the road at Colorado to keep that game close, they're starting a lot of freshmen and sophomores. It's just a classic rebuilding sort of situation. They're doing things completely different than the previous regime, which can be good, can be bad. Only time will tell. But like what I'm seeing from them recently, and while I think Washington certainly played down to their level at times last week, I don't think there's any question about that. It didn't look like the effort was there, so I'm not going to give full credit to UCLA in that sense. I do think Washington, surprisingly for a Chris Peterson team, really did play down to the level of their opponent. But nonetheless, they still kept the game close. So I think more of the same here. The line is small enough where there's no play enough for me, but. These are two good up-and-coming teams that I think we'll see a little bit more in the future. May not be a great-looking game to watch-wise. I mean, they're both not terribly exciting teams at this point, but certainly will be a competitive match.
Yeah, since 2000, Cal has won all 8 games in Berkeley at this point, so that obviously trends well for them. They are laying 7 at this spot, total 52. A kind of a stat to you with Chip Kelly, the teams they have played, their 5 opponents, are 25-3.
Yeah, they've had a rough schedule to start, but they're getting better. Certainly, it looked like all hope was lost early on, but they're certainly getting better. I think very similar to Florida State too. If we look across the country, a team that everyone sort of wrote off as like, oh, what is going on here? But you just gotta give these guys some time, to
you look at all of them. Willie Fisher, or not Fisher, but Willie Taggart. Yeah. Scott Frost, Chip Kelly.
For sure. These are good.
But everybody expects them to do what Dan Mullen did.
Right. Well, it's just, it's sometimes...
Cupboard might not have been as bare there.
No, it certainly wasn't. And there's just a lot, as you said, maybe early in the schedule. Maybe you have some tough games early on and, it gets a little bit easier late.
And then your record finishes respectable, yeah.
Sure. It's just give these guys some time. But they're all those coaches that you mentioned are all going to get it right at some point. So who knows when that'll happen, but yeah.
Bruins 3-7 against the spread last 10 meetings. The Dog 15-6 the last 21 meetings against the spread. However, the home team is 7-1 against the spread last 8 meetings. The under 5-0 last 5 meetings.
Yeah, I think the play on this one is the under in the spot. I don't think the offenses get the scoring too high, but it keeps it marginally close. I could see Cal winning by a touchdown. I could see UCLA losing by a field goal. So
is that 53? Is that what we have here?
I see 53.5, but 52, I still even like it.
Nice.
I'm not going to touch the spread on this game or the money line in either. I'm just going to play the under.
No official play. I will take UCLA. I'll take the Fighting Chips. I think what you say, you're right. It's from a public standpoint, it hasn't gone the way Chip Kelly expects. Or actually, it probably gone the way Chip Kelly expects, but not the way not the way fans and boosters expect.
No, I bet Chip. If we talk to him, I think it'd be fun to hear like a real truthful answer to some of these. I bet he probably thinks it's
be like
what it should be.
Be almost like the Bill Belichick approach. Yeah, we got Cal this week. Tough opponents in the beginning. Yeah, we got Cal.
We're on to Cal.
All right,
well, we're on to Bama and Mizzou, and we talked about Drew Lock a little bit earlier. He's getting 4 touchdowns in Tuscaloosa. The total 74 in this game, 74.5 current live total. Yeah.
Wow.
That's a lot of points, both on the spread and on the total. I'll just say this. Before, no analysis, I'll let you guys talk. I'm taking the over.
Okay. Yeah, that's that.
And I'm taking Missouri money line at 20-1.
Okay.
Just because.
What a shocker. You stole the words right out of my mouth.
You've been looking at my paper all freaking podcast.
I think the best play in this game is the Missouri money line at 20-1. So it's weird saying that, but to me, this is a very polarizing type of game. We have a lot of injuries with Alabama. Even Tua has a sprained knee coming into this one. Although he has taken all the reps in practice, and he's been deemed good to play, but he did tweak his knee, and it ended up being a sprain last week, which was not announced to the public until a couple of days ago. So it's a little cause for concern there. The bigger cause for concern is how many injuries they have on defense now. So they've lost 2 starting defensive backs, both for the year, and the backups are phenomenal. So obviously, like we know, Alabama, their 2s and 3s can all play on most other teams. So I'm not saying there's going to be a huge drop-off per se, but it's guys with lack of game experience. And this is one of those games where it actually matters, game experience, because you're facing an offense that is a juggernaut. On both sides, they can beat you in a lot of different ways.
Right.
They have a quarterback that has been there and done that. I don't think he's afraid of the moment either. It's really a fascinating game. But if things sort of go south for Missouri early on and they get really behind the 8 ball and they're maybe in a game they don't deserve to be in, and I'm wrong about this, they could lose by 30 plus points too. So that's why I'm kind of on the money line.
The money line's a dream. That's a lottery ticket, yeah.
It is. But if you get into a spot though, and especially when we talk about the pure betting world, if you're in a tie game or it's a very, very close game, or they have a small lead going into
ball could bounce the right way.
You could absolutely come on the other side on this one and get a really nice type of middle situation, or just hedge it off and sit in a really good spot, getting 20-1. So I don't think that's too far fetched either. So I that's where I'm at. But
I like a spot to put both the side and the total in a 14-point teaser. Take Missouri plus 42, move the total down to 60.
Wow. Yeah. I like that play.
If they're in a close game, I imagine both teams aren't playing defense at this point.
But they can get blown out, though. That's part of my concern.
Yeah, then hopefully they get blown out 50-20.
And Alabama can put up some points, yeah.
Yeah, of course Alabama can put up. They're averaging, 60? Like 58 points. Missouri's averaging 40. Alabama's giving up 16, but that's misleading.
No, Alabama's the reason that they've been so dominant this year has been more offensively than defensively.
Right.
As strange as that is, but yeah.
I'm gonna make a bold prediction right now. Tua plays the fourth quarter.
Yeah, there we go. Finally, we get a fourth quarter out of it.
Tua's gonna play the fourth quarter in this game.
No, that's an interesting prediction as well as statement. No, I like Missouri in this one. I think they cover. I think they keep it within 3 scores. I think they drive up the total for sure, though. I think they do lose 40-26.
So you like the under?
It's definitely an underplay, yeah.
Fuck.
Oh.
66.
Fair enough. All right. Well, let's. I'm actually. I don't know what it is about Mizzou. That I just like watching them play.
Yeah, they are a fun team to watch. I agree.
So
they're without their best receiver again, who's out with I think it's a torn groin or some sort of strain, and third week in a row he's going to miss something. But I don't know.
They got 2 other guys though, Roundtree and Crockett, who can.
Running the ball. Yes, I was talking about receiving. But
I thought you said running. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, we're good.
All right. Well, let's stay in the SEC. Late game, Ole Miss laying 6.5 against Arkansas. Total 70 in this spot. Not really a game, especially going on at the same time as this Mizzou-Bama. I think this Mizzou-Bama game is going to get some pub. But 72% of the money basically coming in on the favorite at Ole Miss because no one really trusts Arkansas. But I think he's building them slowly right now. They're 2-3 against the spread, even though they're 1-5 overall. At home, might be a good spot here for Arkansas. You think?
Yeah, it's not a true home game. They're actually at a neutral site, technically speaking. It's in Little Rock, in a made-for stadium for big events. So I know it's still virtually a home game, but it's still technically not there. And I know Mississippi did have all of their tickets allotted for the game bought. So I assume they're going to have at least a few thousand people traveling. So that'll be at least worthwhile in some regard. But unfortunately for this one, I've been following this one very, very closely because I think both of these teams can be affected by this, and that is the weather. It should be, like in this middle part of the country, a total disaster.
Talk about the hurricane?
Yeah, it's a complete disaster. So it should rain from about 2 p.m. all the way up until game time and through it. Pretty hard rain, notwithstanding 12-mile-an-hour winds. And this one, to me, when we have 2 passing teams that really have to rely on being able to move around the field well, looks like a disaster. So while there might be some defensive scores or some weird things that go on because of this, I am definitely playing the under here. And I'm playing the under, and it's my score prediction is pretty bonkers. I think it's more like a 24-21 type of situation, and it's not even close to that sense. No idea who's going to win. Not a clue. But if I had to take somebody on the winning side, I would probably lay the points on Ole Miss. But my play here is the under on the total.
Yeah, I kind of like the Razorbacks in this game. I think them with even though the neutral site getting 6.5 in this spot, I think they're kind of an overseen team. Not a lot of people like them as much.
Classic fade the public.
Yes. I do like the under in this one for sure as well. I think, like you said, Tony.
Under 6-1 last 7 meetings in Arkansas, and then you got the weather.
Yes. I believe it goes a little higher, but not much higher. I'm saying like 30-27.
The dog 7-0 last 7 meetings in this thing. I'm going to make it 8-0. I'm going to take the dog. I'm betting Arkansas 6.5.
With the points. Okay.
I'm betting Arkansas 6.5, and you convinced me to probably parlay that with the under.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, if it's going to be nasty, I think it's going to be close and low scoring.
Yeah, can Arkansas run the ball well enough, especially when they get into the red zone area? That's been sort of their big issue, is when they get to the red zone, actually, is being able to put 7 points on the board. It's been very tough. I don't know. I'm not sure they can do that. I mean, this is obviously one of the best spots they've had. I mean, Ole Miss is one of the worst defenses they've faced all year. Probably a worse defense.
Well, that plus Ole Miss's offense is predicated on speed, and
very true.
The weather is going to shut that down.
Very true. Very true. They do have a good running back, though, themselves. They do have a very good, powerful runner, Scotty Phillips, who was a backup coming into the year. The starter went down in the week 1 against Texas Tech, and this guy has just been flying high and was not going to give this job back. So he's looked really good.
Last year, Arkansas won this meeting, so I'm going to say that they're going to cover this meeting.
There you go.
All right, let us jump into probably the big game of this slate. That's Wisconsin, Michigan. Isn't game day there today?
They are.
Yeah, or they were there, or whatever. Wisconsin, Michigan land 8. Wisconsin's a weird team, dude. Not really sure what to make of the Badgers. 69% of the money right now is coming in on them. They're currently actually 10-point dog. Excuse me, I'm sorry. I read the wrong.
It's just moved as the days have progressed. The line continues to move. It's unbelievable.
A lot of public money likes Michigan.
But that seems to be
everybody.
What happens.
Sharps and public. I mean,
yeah.
Yeah.
But this is what happens. I mean, every time we like Harbaugh, or every time Harbaugh gets himself into this spot, he shits the bed.
Amazing. I can't believe they're 10-point favorites. I don't understand. It's one of those lines. I'm with you. All he does is play badly against the good teams in the Big Ten.
Yes.
It's like, okay, this line will be in that 3 to 6-ish range. I don't know where it's going to be. Something in those lines. And then open up at 6.5. I'm like, that seems a little high. Let's let it progress. It's a 10. It's a 10 now. I have no idea why it's going on. But it's like the same thing with UCF. It sort of gives me pause. Why is everybody on this side? I mean, people I both respect as bettors and don't respect as bettors. Everyone is on this side. So
everybody loves Michigan for some reason.
Yeah, it's just one of those weird things. Yes, they played much better these last 3 or 4 weeks for sure, 100%. But I mean, Wisconsin is no joke, no slouch. I have no idea, not a clue why the line is the way it is. The best thing I can say, I guess, would be I would assume a Wisconsin money line bet in the what plus maybe 350 range.
Yeah,
would probably
something around there, yeah.
Be an excellent situation, but I don't understand the line. So unless you guys can illuminate me.
Well, if you look at the trends, the last 11 meetings, Badgers are 9-1-1 against the spread, and the last 6 in Michigan, they're 4-1-1. So
wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's
trends point to Wisconsin for sure. I actually do like a play on the money line for Wisconsin for this for sure.
All right, so I'm not totally out there. That's good.
No,
I got no play on this, but
yeah.
If I had to pick something just for sheer, it's to fade the public, especially fade Harbaugh.
10 points. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Or maybe this is the one where I can't imagine, based on the time of this game, this is the spot on Saturday nights where everybody's chasing. I can't imagine Vegas is going to want to give back any money on Saturday, unless they're giving you back a little money for you to lose on Sunday.
No, I don't see that.
I like to fall on the side of Vegas where they keep their money, so yeah, Wisconsin in this spot. Plus 10 points. And hell, it might get higher.
It probably will. It might go up to like 12, maybe even 13.
Really?
Yes.
I have a hard time believing it, but it may go up 10.5 to
plus 325 is the money line right now on Wisconsin. Yeah.
Maybe Wisconsin. Maybe I guess Honeybrook. You really never know what you get out of that guy.
No, you have no idea what you're going to get from him.
If they get off to an early lead, I mean, maybe there's a chance for a hedge. in play.
Man.
Well, yeah, if you take the 325, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Let's jump back to the Pac-12. Well, Tony scratches his head a little bit.
All right, yeah, I didn't mean that to be in the sound.
No, I just meant like he's like 10.5 points.
I'm just surprised. I really am. It's one of those things. I'm not feigning shock right now. I am really beyond shocked. I didn't realize. I saw it go off to 9. I was still sort of okay with that. I'm not okay with 10. 10's nuts.
I got another weird line for you here. USC and Colorado. USC 7-point favorites.
Yeah, this seems like another straight sort of public, just all over USC all the time, always. We don't care. Have they even covered a spread this year? I don't even know
if
they have.
They have one.
Okay. I don't have it in front of me. I knew it wasn't that many, so okay, 1. Not surprising. I don't know. Can the honeymoon end with Colorado? That's the problem. They just keep on throttling people, especially in the second half of games. They are just crushing teams in the second half. It's weird to me. It's very, very strange. They're a very well-coached, very well-run organization there, but it's just a strange sort of deal. USC coming off of a bye, which certainly helps. I don't know what to expect all that much from them. It's a tough team because it's similar in I think we've mentioned a little bit with Oklahoma State, a lot of younger players, especially in the offensive side of the ball. That's what we're getting with USC. They're starting a lot of freshmen and sophomores, and hard to predict type of stuff. As you like to say, gun to my head, I'll take the points here with Colorado, but I don't have a play on this one because I just don't really have a lot of expectation.
I might see how I do early in the day on Saturday.
There we go. A little influence.
And if I do pretty well, I'm going to take the Buffaloes on this one.
Yeah, call me square. I don't know. This line seems wrong for a reason.
Somebody knows something line, okay?
Everybody loves Colorado. They're 4-1 against the spread, 5-0. They're starting to get national recognition. USC has won 9 in a row against the Pac-12 South. They've won 4 in a row against this team. They've never lost to Colorado since Colorado became a Pac-12 member, and they've won 18 straight in the Coliseum. 270 is not that bad of a money line for me to lay the juice. I don't know about the 7. I'm going to lay Southern California on the money line minus 270. And actually hoping, like you said, talking about influence, hoping that later on in the day, Colorado is getting pounded, that money line may come down a little bit.
Okay.
So I will take USC money line in that spot for the Colorado-USC game. And if I had to take a side, I'd take USC. I think this could be a 24-14 kind of game where they win by 10. Any other late games in that slate you guys would like to discuss?
That is all on my behalf.
No Hawaii Rainbow Warriors.
No, not this week for me.
Okay, fair enough. I'd say another your darling dandies. That Cole McDonald's looking good out there.
I would be against our friend Big Wall here if I had to pick a side. I think this is one where BYU really shows up and goes all the way. But I don't know. Hawaii's been fortunate to win a couple of these games recently too. The bottom might fall out here against a legit defense, this is the best defense they're going to face so far this year. Although Wyoming's pretty good too, I'll grant you that. But Army's no total slouch in defense, but BYU is very legit.
Fair enough. All right. Well, that's going to wrap up our podcast here, the Picks and Chatter edition of the Vegas Squares podcast, NCAA Picks. We are also going to be on tomorrow morning with our NFL Picks edition. We are on at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. See, I can get it right with the schedule. I just can't get it right with the damn football game times. We're on at 10 a.m. Eastern on 12-ounce Sports Radio. I forgot where we freaking broadcasted on. Man, I am killing it today.
This has not been your finest hour.
All right. Anything – you know what? I made a bold prediction. I want you guys to make a bold prediction.
All right.
About the games.
Like a lock? Or like
just something. It could be a player. It could be Missouri wins the game outright. A bomb goes off in the middle of Arkansas Ole Miss. I don't know. Just make me a bold prediction. Doesn't have to be a betting angle.
I like Greer in this week. I think he shows up, does what he's supposed to, and stirs up the talks for Heisman.
Okay, that was a low-hanging fruit.
Rutgers winning outright at Maryland. This is where we see the Maryland blow-up officially start. I think they'll start to really regress as the year goes on. A lot of things have been building for a while there, and they've held it together nicely. But losing to Rutgers at home starts the downward spiral.
Fair enough, fair enough. All right, that's going to do it for us. Again, we are the Picks and Chatter podcast of the Vegas Squares. This is the NCAA version of it. Again, we'll be on tomorrow for the NFL picks. Token Tony Johnson, I appreciate you guys coming on. And, hell, that was a good in-depth dive on the preview.
Loved it. It was a lot of fun.
All right, well, that's going to be it for us again. We appreciate you listening in. Catch us every week, Mondays, Thursdays, Saturdays, Sundays on 12 Ounce Sports Radio, and we will catch you tomorrow.